Welcome to Returning to Us podcast, the podcast where we help people who help people.
Burnout, stress, disconnection, we've all been there.
But what if there was a way back to balance? Here at Five Ives, we blend cutting-edge research with practical strategies to help you move out of survival mode into clarity, calm, and lasting resilience.
In each episode, we will explore tools, insights, stories to help you lead and live with more clarity, calm, and connection. No fluff, no buzzwords, just science-backed strategies that you can actually use. What the heck are the Five Ives? I'm Lauren Spiegelmeier.
I'm Dr. Jessica Doring, and today we're going to be talking with you about what are the Five Ives, who the heck are we, and just share a little bit more about the work that we do to bring compassion and care practices to people who help people.
And I'm going to get us started with a very funny story that came up upon introducing this idea and concept to the world. Jessica and I spent so much time trying to figure out what is the right name? What is the right way to tell people how we're going to help people? It has to be perfect. Oh, we spent way too long on this, but we got it. We figured it out. Five Ives. So we're doing some initial outreach and connecting with organizations. And I connected with this one woman and she picks up the phone and I describe who I am and who I'm from and the Five Ives. And she's like, wait, did you say you're from the Five Guys? And I was like, the burger place? And she's like, yeah. No, those are very, very different things. And for a brief second, I was like, did we pick the wrong name? All this energy spent on the name. And she went on to say, oh man, now I'm distracted because I'm hungry. And I'm like, we had to get this woman some food. Let's go into it. And I told her what we did. And it was this beautiful story that we could then laugh about. And I will never forget for the rest of my life. Anecdote, first outreach, first initiation of telling everyone about what we do and the name behind it and all the effort and energy we put into the name. Here we are to tell you about what we do. We are not the Five Guys. We are not the burger company. We are something very different. And we're going to tell you all about it.
Yes, and it's once you hear why we're called Five Ives and what we do, it'll all make sense and we love the name, but it definitely was a really funny way to start doing outreach to organizations. Be like, we are not a burger company, sorry, which I kind of wish we were sometimes. Like that could be really fun, but also I think the work that we do is really important too. So before we get into what are the Five Ives, I wanted to first start with who we are because our story and the way that we came together actually is what brought about the Five Ives. And so we wanted to kind of share with you who are we. So I am Dr. Jessica Doring. I was a high school math teacher. And there was definitely a time where I was like, I was born to be a high school math teacher. There's just so much about it that I really love. But so many of them were little stinkers. And I say that with total love for them. I loved these kids so much. They were just strong and had so many gifts and talents, but then they'd come in the classroom and just try to destroy everything on purpose, blow up their grades on purpose, get written up on purpose, get sent out of the classroom on purpose. It was really a struggle for me because I knew I wasn't doing things the right way, but I didn't know what the right way was. And so I look back on that time, I just have so many regrets. I wish that I knew back then all the things that I know now. But that really led me on this journey of why are these kids behaving this way, these students? Why are they behaving this way? And what could I do differently? And so my husband and I, we were becoming foster parents. And in these classes, they started talking about trauma and behaviors that are associated with trauma. And light bulbs just started going off in my brain because I was like, oh, you mean all of the behaviors that I'm seeing in these kids that I love so much? And I was like, oh, like I'm starting to see and understand that there's probably trauma at play. And I had not really been taught how do you enter in with someone who's experienced trauma. And so that's really where my journey started and what led me into this work in the first place.
My story is very similar. Also a background in education. Wasn't working with the same age group, was working with third graders, but my first year, I got out of college early, was barely 20 years old, thrown into a classroom. It was a disastrous mess of a classroom. The levels of students, the types of students, it was a hodgepodge. And I remember 20 years old, having students in this class who were flipping over desks and again, creating chaos, very disruptive. And initially I didn't know what to do. So I did what I was told to do, which is send them to the office. And after a couple weeks of just sending them to the office and next day, same thing, next day, same thing. I knew that that wasn't working. I knew the pattern wasn't working. It needed to be broken. So that started with me just doing some intuitive things of trying to build relationships with them, seek them out, connect with them. And then that's a great start. We're making some progress here. Not sending kids to the office anymore. I'm keeping them in the room, but I need to know more. And now I'm curious, what would make someone act that way? And that led me down a whole pathway of reading, researching, making friends in the fields of psychology and psychiatry, and just trying to learn what was behind and underneath all of this, which took me to a lot around human trauma, stress management, secondary trauma, all these things. And that led me into a position where I started coaching. And I was coaching teachers, people working with teachers, how to respond to kids who were more challenging, how to basically not kick them out of school, not suspend them, not expel them, which led to the development of an organization called the Behavior Hub, which was solely devoted to that work, preventing kids from getting removed from programs, helping family systems feel like they had someone to go to and something to try that was getting to the root cause of these behaviors. And that took me to my last kind of step before meeting Jessica, which was getting a phone call from University of Pennsylvania and them hearing about the work I was doing and them asking me to create a program for them under the trauma umbrella. So we created a trauma certificate program, and that led me to a person who led me to Jessica, said, you need to talk to her. You guys need to have a relationship. And you do the same work and you say the same and similar things. And I remember that first phone call. I was like, I don't know. I've always been looking for someone to partner up and do this work with. So I don't feel like I'm always on my own because it's hard and heavy work. And I remember that first phone call just feeling like, wow, I feel like I already know this person. This beyond met my expectations of what I thought was going to come out of this first touch point.
Lauren had the Behavior Hub and I had created the Doring Institute, and we were both doing a lot of work with like individuals within organizations, which it's always fun for us. We love that. But what we found was just a lot of like frustration because we would work with like a teacher, for example, or one parent, and we're one person at a time trying to help. But these people are operating within systems that are really broken, and they were becoming frustrated. And honestly, a lot of them are leaving the profession. I know a lot of people who were amazing teachers and they're not teaching anymore. And a lot of it comes back to you can do all the right things as an individual, but if the system is still broken, then you're going to become burnt out and stressed out and overwhelmed and eventually leave. And so I was really in a place where I'm like, oh, I love this work. I love helping people who help people. I want to make the world a more compassionate place. But it's like I'm feeling frustrated by all of this. And so, like Lauren said, we had a mutual friend who connected us to each other. And when we started talking, it was like really quickly, we're like, how do we do this better? How do we engage in this work in a way that, yes, helps the people who are on the front lines? Because that's super important to us. We know what it's like to be the teacher or the parent, or maybe you're a doctor, maybe you're a social worker, you're somebody in a helping profession. We know what it's like to be the one in a broken system trying to make things better. So we care about that. We also said, how do we do this differently so that the organization as a whole or the system as a whole starts to become more trauma informed? So it was really fun. We went on this ridiculously long journey. Like she said, we took forever to figure out a name, but even before then, it was like, how does this look and what do we do and how do we figure all this out? And any of you who have ever entered into a work partnership probably understand it's a complicated process, but we both want to change the world and make it a more compassionate place. We want to help people who help people. And anyway, there was one day where I was trying to process. I really wanted something that rhymed with Hive because I was like, maybe we could be the something Hive. So I was coming up with, and then I started realizing that the thing that we do, the process that we do, is actually the healing process for people and organizations. This growth and development process that we go through is Five Ives. And so we're going to talk about what those five are. But before I do, I just have to say, Lauren is amazing. She is definitely the better half of this relationship. She's so awesome. And there's something so special about working with people who truly care, people who are out to help people. I told my husband, I feel like if there's a work soulmate, we're two peas in a pod in a lot of ways, but then we also have really great, each of us has different strengths that we bring to the table that make this work really well. And so if you get an opportunity to work with us, I would be delighted to do that with you. But just know that she's the better half. So
The feeling is mutual. The feeling is mutual. We say this all the time. Y'all, when you partner up with someone, it's like entering into a romantic relationship. Choose wisely. And I think we both chose
yes.
wisely.
Shout out to Jen who introduced us to each other, because I think we both were in a place, oh man, we don't know that we want to just continue on like this by ourselves anymore. And so it was such a serendipitous moment for us. So the Five Ives, what are they? What did we discover we were really doing? Because it's important to put words to the things that we're trying to communicate to people. It's helpful when you're going through a healing process, for example, to hear words that describe what you've been through, what you're going through, what it looks like moving forward. And so this was such an amazing aha moment for us, because it was like, this describes perfectly what we're trying to help. So the five Ives are survive, revive, strive, thrive, and hive. So those are the five Ives, and we're going to talk you through a little bit about those five Ives, just briefly, and kind of share with you why it's so important that we know these stages. I think what we were seeing was everybody wants to jump into thrive. Everybody wants to take the organization wherever it is today and just boom, tomorrow we're going to thrive. And it's like, ooh, that's not always reasonable or something that we can do. And so why would it be important for someone to know like that we can't just always jump straight into thrive?
I think too, Jessica and I had a conversation with Dr. Stephen Porges a couple weeks ago, months ago. I don't know when it was, not that long ago. And as we were describing to him the Five Ives, I realized how well it aligned to his work. So for those of you not familiar, he is a guru when it comes to the nervous system and nervous system regulation. And think about just when your body feels dysregulated, just such obvious signs of you're scattered, you're stressed, you're tense, you're tight, obvious nervous system dysregulation. And I was thinking about our Five Ives, and I was like, wow, these Five Ives, these five steps to well-being perfectly take us through nervous system regulation. So I think that's a good point. Jessica is like, when we're working on fixing some things that are broken, it can't happen overnight. Like these are big internal pattern breaks, behavior shifts, mindset alterations, like paradigm shifts. They take time, and it takes little micro practices that build into sustainable long-term practices. If you try and jump from our first step, survive, all the way up to thrive and eventually the community aspect hive, it's probably not going to be sustainable. It's probably not going to last, and you'll probably burn it out or fall off the wagon. And it's just, we were very intentional about these five steps and working through them kind of slowly, or at least until we feel like we've mastered one before moving on to the next. So I'll let you maybe go through all of them. We can talk about each one and why we chose them and what they mean.
The first one. So I want everyone who's listening to this to just put yourself in a space where think about someone who has just lost a loved one. Right now, in the moment, just think about that and think about how you're going to engage with that person. Right? Are we going to expect that person to get up and perform in front of people? Are we going to expect them to be their best selves today? Probably not, right? We engage with that person so delicately and kindly, and we oftentimes will, like most workplaces, let them take off work, right? We're not even expecting them to show up in the beginning because it's so overwhelming. And when we think about that, I think it's an easy frame of reference for us, because when organizations are in survive mode, they're trying to make it through the day. I think a lot of times we have these unrealistic expectations where we say, okay, today you're struggling to even keep people from quitting their jobs, and people don't even want to show up to work, and everybody's angry at each other, and people that we're working with are totally dysregulated, and the whole system is broken. Asking that organization to jump straight into doing everything exactly the way that you would want them to do it is a lot. Asking someone who's parent just died yesterday to get up and make a big presentation at a marketing conference and engage with thousands of people. It's a pretty unrealistic expectation. And so, sure, could some organizations or people do that? Maybe, but that first step of survive is let's make it through the day. Let's try to put a plan together, because some organizations aren't even there yet. Let's be real. Some organizations are in such utter chaos. We're not even really surviving. So how can we make sure that everybody has their basic needs met? How can we make sure that as an organization, we're making it through the day? And then the goal is for us to turn from that. So we're in survive, and now we're going to start turning toward revive. And revive is where we say, okay, we know you've been in survival. But when you've been in that mode of, I'm trying to survive, make it through the day, everything is broken, nothing is working, that having those elevated stress levels, what you need to be able to do to even get to the point where you can start planning and like planning your future and making steps is you have to be able to revive your hearts. I know some people hate this find your why or remember your why. They like hate that phrase because sometimes it's weaponized against people, right? Remember your why so that we don't have to pay you well. But that's not what we're talking about. We're saying, who are you at your core? Why are you doing this important work as an organization? Why are you engaging in these helping things that you're doing, right? You obviously have this mission for a reason. It's kind of reviving you to get to, we're not just surviving, but now we're starting to turn toward the plans that we have for the future by reviving our hearts. So that's the first step, survive to revive.
I think like survive, become self-aware. You've got to become self-aware that you're not even doing well as an individual or an organization. So like, self-awareness first. Recognize that we are in a survival state. That's good. We got that. Then we go into this revival state, and it is about getting you to get regulated again, teaching you regulation techniques, teaching you why you're dysregulated, teaching you what's underneath it all, like helping you to understand the science behind all of this to get you to a place that feels better, which is when it takes us into that strive category.
And even I think about revive, so many places want to jump from this survival mode. Everybody's panicking, you're having trouble staffing, everything is chaotic. And we just want to jump into planning for the future and let's just change. And that was even Lauren and I, when we first started talking about what programs we were going to offer, we were there too. We're like, let's jump right in and help people to think about trauma care and engaging with people in caring ways and all that stuff. And then it was like, oh, you know what? People are so burnt out and overwhelmed and stressed out. They probably need to be cared for well first. And so that's the heart behind that, is like to be able to get to strive, which is the next step. We have to have hearts that are prepared for that, that are ready and care for people well. So organizationally, that might look like actually taking a retreat and processing things that have happened. And sometimes that even looks like things like conflict resolution. So I noticed in a lot of organizations that we work with, there's a lot of conflict between the supervisors and the people that work for them. If we can't get past that, we're not ever actually going to thrive as an organization together. So once we have revived, so it looks a lot like caring for ourselves, caring for the team, making sure that everything, like Lauren said, we have regulation strategies, then we want to turn to strive. And strive is really where we're saying, as an organization, what do we want to do? Lauren and I always joke that we're accidental trauma care experts, right? I don't think either one of us woke up one day and was like, I want to be a trauma care expert. It just happened because we were trying to learn how to do things better and how to help people. And then here we are, we've done all this learning and educating. We want to help people. But what's great about our process is we're not here to tell you what to do. We have suggestions, we have a lot of knowledge and information that can help, but really in Strive, what we want is for the organization to take knowledge of trauma care practices or these stress management practices, the things that we're trying to help people to do. And what we want is we want you as an organization to figure out what would it look like for us to thrive and how do we implement these practices that they're talking about in our context. So we're not here to tell you what to do. Strive is actually about you taking ownership and finding that empowerment to be able to make those plans yourself to thrive.
Yeah. I think as we're speaking through these out loud and sharing them with you all, I'm like, wow, provide such a pivotal stage for us. I'm almost wondering if we end up staying in that stage the longest of all of them, because if we don't revive ourselves, and I think so many of us are like, and I'm guilty of this. I'm in survival mode. I'm like, I'm already skipping revive. I'm trying to get to strive. I want to be able to thrive, and I just want so badly to skip the revive because I know it's going to take a while because I know the revive step is going to take me a long time. I don't want to spend the time doing it. I want to expedite. I want to get past it. And so I think where we miss the mark is, shoot, that step is so important and it needs the time it deserves to have to get us into strive and into thrive.
Yes, because think about what it would look like for you to be able to thrive, right? Thrive is where you're doing the things that you are called to do. You're helping people in the ways you want to help them. We're not re traumatizing them through the work that we're doing. We're really showing up and engaging well. To be able to do that, you have to be in a regulated state.
Yep.
You cannot be running around like a chicken with your head cut off and also thriving. But it's like we forget that. We're like, it's fine. Everything behind the scenes can be on fire, but as long as we're caring for patients or students or clients well, then it's all fine. That's actually not true. If behind the scenes of the organization things are falling apart, even as individuals show up to care for people who show up for your services, those individuals will become overwhelmed, burnt out, frustrated, stressed. That actually does impact those interactions they have with the people that you serve. It also impacts your team and the longevity of your team, right? So if you skip revive, if you're not spending the time there, maybe on the outside it looks like you're thriving, but then it's why you don't have any, you can't keep a director longer than a couple years. You have turnover in all of your major staff positions. You can't hire new people. And it's because as an organization, you've missed out on that really critical step. So I totally agree. And so then from all of that to thrive, we're like, man, we're killing it. We're doing all the things we said we were going to do. We're doing it well. Obviously, during that time, we're always learning and growing. So we're not saying thrive means you've arrived. I don't think we ever fully arrive, but thrive is like, we're doing well. Things are going well. Our plans are being implemented with fidelity. Things are looking good. We're operating with integrity. Everything is like, boom, done. We're doing great. The final step is Hive. And this is where, so I think some people think Thrive is it. I want to share a quick story. So I was sharing about the Five Ives with a friend of mine who has experienced some pretty intense trauma in her life. And she was asking what I'm doing, what I'm up to. So I was telling her, really excited to share with her. And I was like, this is individual growth and organizational. And so when I shared with her and I said Thrive was number 4, she's like, what? She's like, I thought Thrive would be the end. And so she's like, now I'm so curious, what's the last one? And so I told her that Hive was the last one. And Hive is really engaging with other people who are doing the work that you're doing and being a leader in this space. And she was like, oh my goodness. She's like, so she has experienced some really hard things and she's in a season where she wants to help other people who have experienced the same things that she has. And she's not quite there. She's still learning how to thrive herself. We're still working on that part. But she's like, I want to Hive. I want to be the person helping others and leading them. And I was like, oh, this is just so cool to hear her. She loved hearing the Five Ives. She's like, this is my journey and my story. And then she was like, the fact that you're trying to help organizations do this is so cool because we think that Thrive is the end all be all, that's it. But if we can Hive and connect with other organizations that are doing this kind of work, if we can lead the way in these practices, we end up changing even more people's lives because now we're not just impacting the people that we directly serve, we're impacting people in other organizations and across the world.
And I think if I put the science behind it, if I go back to Dr. Stephen Porges' work and I look at these 5 steps, oh my gosh, these are the steps of nervous system regulation. These are the steps of internal scientific reset. Survive is the first step. Okay, you recognize your nervous system is completely wrecked. You are not yourself. You are stuck in this like state of unself and dysregulation. Okay, so you recognize that. The next step is okay, we got to go into the revive. And this is why this one takes a while. We got to reset our bodies. We got to reset our nervous system. We've got to do all these things, put these practices in place to get ourselves back to a place of neutralization and starting to feel like self again. Well, when we've done that, we can then take the next step, which is strive to start planning for what does this look like ongoing? What does this look like preventatively? What does this look like long term? And we take the energy to strive it out. And then we've got that plan put in place because we're regulated enough to be able to do that. And then we go into thrive. How do we make this like a permanent lifestyle practice? How do we make this like a forever change? We get that step going. So we've got thrive down. And then we feel really good. We think we're done. Nervous system is regulated. Scientifically, we're reset. We're feeling great. Done. No, because the last step of that research and that work is social engagement. I feel so good now that I have the energy to go out and impact socially. And that's why we added the last step, Hive, in there, because we need that social engagement, that kind of social reteaching. So it was a very intentional 5 steps backed by science around the nervous system. And like Jessica said, it works through you as an individual, it applies to individuals, but it also applies to organizations as a whole.
So one more time, it's survive, revive, strive, thrive, and hive are the 5 Ives. If you want to know more, you want to work with us, we do a lot of coaching and training and mentorship for people who are in helping professions, really trying to focus on organizational change right now. So we love to work within systems. If you want to know more, there's going to be a link in the description below. You can go to fiveives.com. It's FIVEIVES.com, or you can click the link in the description below, and we'd love to connect with you.